Happy Friday to you, everyone. If you don't mind, I want to share with you a little excerpt from one of the books that's on my recommended reading list. It's The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And if you haven't read it, I recommend it, especially during these days in which we have a lot of troubling events. If I may, I'd like to turn to chapter 6 real quick, and it's just a little bit of paragraph, a small one, titled The Law of Short-Sightedness. Wow, short-sightedness really affects all of us, and it can deter you from ever reaching a long-term goal. And I'm seeing a lot of that here lately in the dog training world, getting a lot of input from viewers and other dog training clients and just people, just dog owners in general who are reaching out to me from all over the world. So I just want to spend a little bit of time with you about keeping your eyes on those long-term goals, those goals that just seem so far away, but yet they're not. Okay, so this is from the book. It is in the animal part of your nature to be most impressed by what you can see and hear in the present. What you can see and hear in the present. The latest news reports and trends. The opinions and actions of people around you. Whatever seems the most dramatic. How true. This is what makes you fall for alluring schemes that promise quick results. This is also what makes you overreact to present circumstances, becoming overly exhilarated or panicky as events turn one direction or the other. Never lose sight of your long-term goals. With an elevated perspective, you'll have the patience and clarity to reach almost any objective. How true. You know, I guess I've been fortunate in that I've had these long-term goals for most of my life. I had to get from point A to point B in the Alaskan wild hundreds of times, in the African wild hundreds of times, in the jungles of Central and South America, from point A to point B. Many obstacles, many issues confronting me along the way. So when Bryan sets his sight on something, I get it done. And you need to do the same thing with dog training. But I almost feel sorry for you today because there's so many issues confronting you. So many things causing you to be short-sighted instead of far-sighted. So I just want to kind of go over some of those just real quick. Because I also learned another little trick in life. No matter how big the problem seems, you're bigger. And know how you convince yourself of that? Write it down. Write it down. Any issues confronting you today, personally or in your dog training life, in your relationship with your dog, write it down. And when you write it down, you see how insignificant, how very small your problem is, and how bigger you are. So here we go. We're at the start of our journey here. A journey to a great life, which, by the way, that is the title of an upcoming book that I'm working on right now, so stay tuned for that. A great life with your dog. Wow. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we want in general? A great life. A very great life. Why not? Especially with your dog. So let's just go over some of these things. So I wrote them down this board so they seem so insignificant. And yet people make such a big deal out of them. So I wrote them down. We're just going to go over it. Okay, here's in the start. Well, Bryan, it's just a puppy, so I don't think I should start its training. It's going to grow up. March on. We're headed to our goal. But I don't want to put it in a crate. They say that putting a dog in a crate is doggy jail. I'm standing in a room right now with 4 walls and a door. March on. A long line? Put my dog on a long line? That takes away my dog's freedom. Go back to your high school history class where you'll learn that freedom is earned. March on. Training costs too much, so does happiness. March on. But Google says this, Google says that. Do you know that we actually put a man on the moon without the use of Google? March on. Aversive stimuli. Really? It's called cause and effect. You're not going to get out of here alive without it. Neither is your dog. March on. Prong collar? March on. Shock collar. Shock collar. Why don't you put that around your neck, Bryan, to see what it feels like? Okay? First of all, it's not a shock. Second of all, I'm not a dog. March on. I don't have time. You're absolutely correct. You have a finite amount of time on the planet Earth. So get it done. March on. I don't believe in medicating my dog. Remember you said that. March on. It takes a lot of patience. Got it. Agreed. March slower, but nevertheless, march on. I could have, should have, would have. Yeah, that's what we all say towards the end of our lives. But you didn't. March on. The great life is when you achieve a conditioned response from your dog to a conditioned stimulus under all conditions that you imagine having that great life. That outing, those walks, those strolls along a lake, playing ball at a park, having your guests over your house and your family and have them admire your dog. Lowers your blood pressure, helps you live longer. Keep your eyes on the prize. It's there. It's right in front of you. In 40 years, I've never met anyone that was not able to achieve a great life with their dog when they took on and were able to stay far-sighted and not short-sighted. So write down any issues confronting you today. Anything holding you back on your journey. Look at them. They're insignificant. March on. See you tomorrow.